going to teach you about Greek and Latin root words and affixes. But first, let me start off with some history about Greek and Latin root words and affixes. These languages are considered sisters, as they descended from Latin, their mother Italian. The languages include Italian, French, and Spanish. Linguists estimate that 60% of our common everyday vocabulary today comes from French. Thus, many Latin words came into English indirectly through French.
You're wondering why you need to know Greek and Latin root words and affixes. Knowing Greek and Latin root words as well as prefixes and suffixes can help students understand the meaning of new words. You also may be wondering what they're about. Many English words are formed by taking basic words and adding combinations of prefixes and suffixes to them. A basic word to which affixes are added is called a root word because it forms the basis of a new word. The root word is also a word in its own right. For example, the word lovely consists of the word love and the suffix ly. In contrast, a root is the base of a new word but does not typically stand alone. For example, the word reject is made up of the prefix re in the Latin root ject, which is not a standalone word. Okay, go. Some common examples of prefixes are anti, dis, for, mid, non, pre, and semi. Let's go into more detail with a few of them. The prefix anti, which means against, could be used with a root word by saying anti-bully. Anti means against, so you're against bullying. Mid, which means middle, could be used with a root word by saying midfield. Non, which means not, could be used with a root word by saying non-violent. Pre, which means before, could be used with a root word as preview.
Now we're going to go into more detail about suffixes. Some examples would be ed, les, and ly. The first example would be ed. Its definition is past tense, and a word example would be walked. So you have already walked the dog. The next one would be less. The definition of less would be without. An example would be hopeless. You are without hope. The next example would be s and es. And the definition is more than one, so plural. An example would be trains with an s and trances with es. If you add s, the word is now plural, or if you add es, the word is now plural. The final example is ly. The definition is how something is. Lovely and greatly are two good examples. You're showing how great something is by saying greatly and adding the ly to it.
Now let's take a deeper look into root words. Some examples would be auto, bio, odd, and dict. Auto means self, and a word example would be autobiography. It's a story about your life written by you. Bio means life, and a word example would be biography. It's a story about your life written by someone else. Odd means to hear, and a word example is audition. You audition so the director knows what you sound like. Dict, which means to say, and a word example would be dictator. You say what everyone needs to do.
Now we're going to review. What are affixes made up of? If you said prefixes and suffixes, then you are correct. Next, what's a prefix? What's a suffix? If you said a word that goes to the beginning of a root word, you are correct about prefixes. If you said a word that you can add to the end of a root word is a suffix, you are correct. This, ly, is an example of what? If you said suffix, you are correct.